Hi, my name's John. Welcome to the very first of my new mini tip photography tutorial videos. Over the next coming months I'm going to be passing on some of the knowledge that I've gained over the last 25 years or so of being a photographer, and hopefully during this time we'll pass on little bits of information to help you improve your photography. So over the coming videos we'll be looking at things like using different apertures to improve the look of your pictures, shutter speeds, how to use different shutter speeds to create the look that you're looking for. Lighting is obviously very important. We'll be looking at using fill-in flash, especially if you're outdoors. Using fill-in flash can make a big difference to your pictures, and using reflectors even when you're indoors. So hopefully along with lots of other things, gradually we'll improve your photography as the videos go through, and hopefully the end result is that you'll be taking much better pictures. So one of the most important things that we need to get right when we're taking photos is of course exposure, and that's what we're going to look at in this first mini video. Now the exposure in the camera is controlled in basically in three ways from the camera. We've got shutter speed, which is how long the light is allowed to go into the camera and onto the chip. The second is aperture, and that's the hole in the lens, and that allows, depending on the size of the hole, just like the pupil of your eye, it allows less or more light depending on whether it's wide open or whether it's closed. And the third thing to look at is the ASA or ISO, and this is how sensitive the chip is. Most cameras are between 100 and 200 ASA. And we can upgrade that to a bigger number, which will let in or make the chip more sensitive to light. So with ISO we try and keep the number as low as possible. Keeping the number low will give us the best possible quality. So if the camera comes with a range of 100 to say 1600, 100 will give a lot better quality than 1600, but of course if it's low light conditions, you're outside or it's night, then you might have to put the number up to 1600 in order to get that sensitivity to get the images recorded. So for most situations we'll keep the number nice and low, and that will give us the best quality. So that leaves then shutter speed and aperture. Now getting the combination of the shutter speed and the aperture correct is going to really determine how good the picture is in many ways. So the first thing to do is to find out what the exposure is. Now you can use one of these, which will be a light meter, or of course in the camera you have an inbuilt light meter, and that will give you a pretty accurate guide in most situations to get the exposure right. So if I'm going to take a light reading in here, now the light reading for me here is a 30th of a second at f8. And that will indicate to me to set the controls on the camera to the aperture at f8 and the shutter speed at a 30th, and that should give me the correct exposure. Now we can do different combinations now depending on what the sort of picture you're looking for, or with your hand holding the camera we might change the shutter speed, and this is where things start to get a little bit more, you can be a little bit more creative. Now if you want to say, if you've got something that is moving, say if you're photographing the kids, they're playing outside, you might find a 30th of a second, well actually if there's any movement in there it's going to be a little bit blurred. Now 30th of a second is a reasonably long exposure. You could probably just about hand hold it without getting any camera shake, but if there's any movement in the picture you might just find it gets a little bit blurred. So what we need to do then is to increase the shutter speed. So if we were to increase the shutter speed, if we say to take it up to 250th of a second, that's a pretty fast shutter speed and will freeze quite nicely most action. But of course this is going to make the picture darker. Having a shorter shutter speed, or faster shutter speed with a shorter duration, is actually going to make the picture darker. So we then need to do one of two things. We either increase the ISO rating to make the chip more sensitive, or we open up the aperture to let more light in. So again, on your shutter speed, if you or on your camera, if you now set it to 250th and then do another meter reading, it'll tell me that we then need to shoot at an aperture of f4, and that should give exactly the same exposure. It'll look exactly the same as the previous one, but this time hopefully any movement will be captured with that 250th of a second. So we'll be looking at all these things in a little bit more detail over the next few videos. That's it for this video, but next time we'll be looking at aperture in a little bit more detail and seeing what we can do with the different size apertures to change your picture. I'll hopefully see you then.